Major League Baseball is expanding to 40 teams. Not this year, not in a few years, not anytime soon. But someday eventually, you can count on it. Why would I believe something like that? Only 4 teams have been added in the last 40 years. How on earth can MLB add 10 new franchises in the next few decades? Well, hear me out on this one. Expansion has been really slow, in fact non-existent in the last 26 years. Many reasons for that. The high cost of building new stadiums, high expectations for attendance, competition from other professional sports, and other forms of entertainment. There's always the risk that if you make this commitment, you won't get a good return on your investment. It still won't be easy to attract a major league team in the future, but the expectation of 40,000 seat stadiums and 30,000 plus average attendance is becoming a thing of the past. Ballparks of under 30,000 capacity will soon become the norm, which can better suit cities with not so large populations. The population of the U.S. continues to grow, and baseball isn't dying out like so many people thought it would. MLB average attendance is set to hit an 8-year high this season. Attendance was declining almost annually for a stretch of about 15 years. That's one reason why there was no talk of expansion during that time. Seemed like baseball in America was experiencing a slow death. All the while, teams were aiming to fill up 40,000 seat ballparks. Now expectations are more reasonable. There's a larger population to draw from, and more people out there who want to attend games. We should expect MLB expansion to happen faster and more frequently in the future. Write off the first 20 years of this century as the lost decades of Major League Baseball, and move into the future as it was before. Wouldn't be the first time where 10 new ball clubs were added in just 2 decades. From the start of the 1960s to the end of the 1970s, MLB expanded from 16 to 26 teams. So why not expansion from 30 to 40 teams in the next 2 decades? With everything going the way it is right now, it could happen. Do I really, truly believe we'll see a 40-team MLB by the year 2050? Not really. Actually, I would be really shocked to tell you the truth. But I do believe as we're waiting for this long-awaited expansion to 32 teams, that future expansions won't take nearly as long. But whatever number they expand to in the short term, beyond 32 that is, it seems like 40 would be their ultimate target. 20 teams in each league, 8 divisions with 5 teams each, probably a 16-team postseason. All we need to make this happen are 10 cities that are capable of building a stadium and averaging over 20,000 fans per game. So let's talk about it. Some things I want to clear up before we get started. I'm assuming that trends existent now will continue into the future, and we're talking about expansion a couple decades from now. A lot could change between now and then. A city could be rich and prosperous right now, set to become a top 10 city in the future. Then its fortunes reverse. We just don't know what will happen. The best we can do is assume current trends continue. But the same holds true for cities that are not doing so well, and one that will seem like a glaring omission here is Portland. It's an expansion candidate right now. They are actively trying to land a major league franchise in Portland as we speak. But I am certain that Portland will be passed over in this round of expansion, and if trends continue, it won't even be considered in future rounds of expansion. The city has seen a decline in population every year for the last 4 years. The 5-county area has also seen 4 straight years of population decline, and the entire state of Oregon has seen negative population growth for the last 2 years. There are other cities that have seen similar declines: New York, Chicago, San Francisco, but those cities are already loaded with professional teams, and they've got residents to spare. They'll be fine. Portland is just big enough to be an expansion candidate, and it's shrinking. It'll need a big rebound to re-enter the expansion race in later years. And it could happen. Cities go through rough patches sometimes, and they emerge from it. But as I said, we're assuming current trends continue, so Portland won't be considered here. Also, I won't try to guess what happens as far as relocation. The only thing I'll assume is that the A's do move to Vegas. Plenty of reasons to believe that never happens, but for convenience sake, we assume it does. Okay, so we start with the first round of expansion, from 30 to 32. This is the realistic one, the one that should happen before the decade is over. If you've been following the expansion talk over the last few years, it will not surprise you at all that the first city I'm mentioning here is Nashville. Nashville is considered the front-runner among all expansion candidates at this time. The city's got a good-sized population to draw from, no other major league cities nearby, good support for its other professional sports teams, and most importantly, there's a well-organized group of investors actively trying to make it a reality, and the city seems to be on board with these plans. Nashville is number 1. Charlotte might actually be a better candidate if we're just comparing cities, but it looks like Charlotte's going to sit this one out. Nashville is the top expansion candidate. Earlier this year, I said that Nashville and Salt Lake City are the two frontrunners for MLB expansion. And I wasn't lying. With expansion seemingly right around the corner, those were the two cities that were really making a push for it. But now the expansion talk has cooled a bit. Manfred himself said that it's not happening very soon. Maybe because the A's situation is so unclear, or maybe it's something else. Whatever the reason, it now looks like there's time for other cities to throw their hats in the ring. And that is exactly what Austin has done. I also said at the time that either Austin or San Antonio could easily surpass Salt Lake City if they showed any kind of motivation toward landing a franchise. It would be one or the other, not both. The two cities are too close to each other. One city's bid would be the Central Texas bid. Both cities have large populations, two of the fastest growing metros in the U.S., but Austin has always been seen as the better candidate because of the income levels. A lot more money in Austin, and now there is a grassroots effort to bring an MLB team to the city. Once they get a little more serious about it, Austin will easily pass Salt Lake City as the top candidate in the West. Salt Lake City was always going to have a tough time going up against any other city, population being the main problem. Of all cities ever thought of for MLB expansion, Salt Lake City is the smallest. Some have commented that Salt Lake City's population isn't so small when you count the area just outside the metro area. Okay, but this is baseball we're talking about. Most of the games are played on weekdays. Population in the immediate area is more important than it is in other sports. That's what the Rays have been dealing with. A lot of people in the area, just not the immediate area. The dumbest argument I often hear against putting a team in Austin is when people say Texas already has two teams. Yes, Texas has two teams, while New Hampshire and Wyoming don't have any. See how dumb that sounds? Stop thinking of it as one state. It's got over 30 million people, so having three teams would mean one team for every 10 million. California's currently got one team for every 8 million. Heck, Missouri's got two teams, one for every 3 million. Texas can easily accommodate another team. Yes, the Rangers and Astros will try to protect their interests in the region, but they won't be able to block an expansion to Austin. So here's how I have the divisions looking when Nashville and Austin join in 2029. It goes to 4 divisions in each league. AL East, same as now, minus the Rays. So you have Yankees, Red Sox, Jays, and Orioles. AL North Division, you could call it the Midwest or just keep calling it the Central. Same as the AL Central now, minus the Royals. White Sox, Tigers, Twins, and Guardians. AL West, Mariners, Angels, A's, and Royals. In the newly created South Division, almost an all-Texas division, Rangers, Astros, Rays, and Austin. Why put all the Texas teams together? Well, it just makes sense. I know the old way of doing it was one team in each league. That's why the Yankees are in the AL, Mets in the NL. Same for the Chicago teams, the Ohio teams, etc. But now that the AL and NL are not separate organizations, it's just not necessary. In fact, you want teams in the same area playing each other as much as possible. It helps to build rivalries. Fans of the away teams can visit more easily. NL East, Mets, Phillies, Nationals, and the Pirates come over from the Central. Now you've got the two Pennsylvania teams together. NL North, same as the NL Central now, minus the Pirates. Cubs, Brewers, Reds, and Cardinals. NL West, same as now, minus the Rockies. Dodgers, Giants, Padres, and D-backs. NL South, Braves, Marlins, Rockies, and Nashville. There's another version I have of this where the Rockies move over to the AL South with the 3 Texas teams, while the Rays come over to the NL South. It would make geographic sense. That way the NL South would be an all-Southeast division, while the AL South would be more South Central to Southwest. But I think they'll try to keep the Rockies in the NL for now, so I have it this way. The next expansion will be from 32 to 36 teams by the year 2040. If you only wanted to hear about the most realistic expansion scenario, you can click away right now. The next 2 rounds of expansion are probably not going to happen this way. It's just fun to think about. One team will definitely go to North Carolina. Charlotte is already big enough to support a team. By that time, it'll be so big that it'll seem ridiculous that it does not have a Major League ball club. One reason Charlotte may be hesitant to pursue an expansion team is because their AAA ballpark is only 10 years old. One of the best views of all minor league parks, but only seats 11,000, not big enough for MLB. They don't want to see that go to waste. Maybe in 15 years they'll be ready to build something bigger. Or maybe Raleigh will get the expansion team, another large metro in North Carolina, and it's only got the NHL to compete with. I've seen a few comments saying that Raleigh would be a better option. Either way, North Carolina gets a team. I don't feel like Salt Lake City is ready now, but they will be for the next round. The population will have grown. The arrival of the NHL team will be old news. If an MLB franchise opened for business right now, it wouldn't be the only new team, and that could be a problem when you've got two new brands in a smaller market. But by 2040, the market is not so small, and the Major League expansion team is the newest, hottest thing in town. One new team will be in Canada. They'll still be talking about bringing the Expos back, but with Portland out of the discussion, Vancouver, not Montreal, becomes the most attractive option in Canada. Finally, the Mariners won't be all alone in that region. MLB gets a team in Western Canada, where they've never been before. Mariners get themselves a geographic rival. So far, no real efforts have been made toward luring a team into Vancouver. That may be because Portland has been a serious expansion candidate in recent years. With Portland no longer gunning for a team, Vancouver gets more serious about it. The last pick of this round of expansion is Indianapolis. Indy is just one of those cities, big enough but not really big, growing but not growing fast. Seems like a viable option but with some risks. Definitely the kind of city that would build a 25,000-seat ballpark, and any average attendance over 20,000 would be acceptable. Here I'm not going to try and guess what the divisions would look like. All I can say is it would be messy, and nobody would be happy with it. They'd keep the 4 divisions in each league set up. Some divisions with 4 teams, some with 5. No matter how you try and set it up, it always looks weird. But that's okay, it's only for 10 years. By 2050, we've got 40 teams, and they fall into place much better. So let's look at the expansion from 36 to 40 teams. For the first 2 teams, not so much an expansion, more of a revival. The Expos return to Montreal in their brand new ballpark, half the size of their old one. The people who still remember the old Expos will be pretty old by that time, but they'll still opt for the old name and the old uniforms. Another old team is brought back, the Oakland A's. They'll never stop fighting for this one, and it'll happen eventually. I just think it'll be later rather than sooner. And I'm not even sure if it'll actually be Oakland. This could be Sacramento's expansion. It all depends on which city is better situated to host a Major League franchise in 2050. So this will either be a return of the A's to Oakland or the start of something new in Sacramento. Oklahoma City. This one may sound surprising. In the 2040s there will be calls for a 4th team in Texas, which by then will have the highest population of any state in the U.S. But instead of doing that, MLB will opt for a neighboring state. Oklahoma City is not a big city, but it's on the verge of cracking the top 40, which by this time will be big enough. And for the last one, MLB makes its long overdue selection south of the border. The Monterey Sultans become a Major League team. The present stadium is just over 30 years old right now. By that time it'll be ready for a replacement. The new one will seat 30,000 and ready to be a part of Major League Baseball. Mexico's economy will have grown to the point where it's not as big of a difference between the two countries. Some will say Mexico City is a better option because of the population, but because of the distance and elevation, Monterey is the better choice. Alright, so here's how they'll be organized. AL East, Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles, and Jays remain, joined by the Montreal Expos. Like I said before, no need for the AL-NL split anymore. Keep the 2 Eastern Canadian teams together. AL North, all the same as the AL Central today. White Sox, Tigers, Guardians, Twins, and Royals. AL West, Angels, Las Vegas, not sure if they'll be called the A's or what at that point. Mariners, Vancouver, and Salt Lake City. Gotta have Seattle and Vancouver together. Vegas and Salt Lake City could be a good one too. AL South, the 3 Texas teams, Rangers, Astros, and Austin, are joined by cross-border rival Monterey and their unfriendly neighbor to the north, Oklahoma City. NL East, Mets, Phillies, Nationals, Pirates, and Reds. NL North, Cubs, Cards, Brewers, Rockies, and Indianapolis. Rockies might seem a bit odd here, but it's where they fit in best. NL West, Dodgers, Giants, Padres, D-backs, all present in the NL West today, joined by Oakland. If we're starting all over again, no reason to keep the Bay Area teams apart. NL South, Braves, Marlins, Rays, Nashville, and Charlotte. The 2 Florida teams come together so they can play more often. Nashville and Charlotte, 2 of the newest teams, hopefully can form some sort of rivalry. Some cities that will not get a team, even with expansion to 40 teams. Buffalo, not big enough, and it's shrinking. This could have worked at one time, maybe even now if they tried it, but 25 years from now it'll be out of the question. New Orleans, same thing, could have landed a team years ago, and it might have worked, but it won't be a major city in the future. Omaha, good baseball city, but not a major league city. They've got the College World Series, and should be content with that. Maybe host a few more Royals games, maybe even an MLB All-Star game one day, but not a Major League franchise. Orlando or Jacksonville. It's been over 25 years and they haven't figured out how to make baseball work in Florida. If they figure out how to make it work in the next 25 years, they'll be happy with that, and won't push their luck trying another city in Florida. Norfolk, Virginia Beach. The only way a team lands there is if the Nationals relocate, which we all know won't happen. Even then, the new team in North Carolina would be the nail in the coffin for any expansion hopes in Virginia. Anyway, that's what I think about the future of MLB expansion. Let us know what you think down in the comments. That's all for this one, and until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.